Okay, it's 5:30, so we are, I'm calling the Historical Preservation Board to order. And, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? And if so, is there any corrections or changes or anything? And I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have
Anybody want a second?
Sean seconded.
Oh, good.
a motion and a second to approve the minutes from November 6th. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Okay, public comments, seeing there's nobody here in the audience, we'll go ahead and go on to old business and historical marker progress updates. Right now, the only one we got in the chute is fort number 11, and I'll turn it over to Jerry for that one.
I've been trying to get the, well, of course, you see what looks like the final draft itself, but the documentation has been, oh, sorry. Forget what I didn't say just now. Oh, I gotta be closer.
Yes, thank you. There you go.
Closer. Yes, the final draft, as I think each of you has a copy before you. It is, in my view, something of an improvement over the last couple. Would have occurred to me if I'd had the word count sooner that there's one other item that could be added without breaking the bank. This being a two-sided sign that's being asked for. It's probably of some interest to the public that the Army, in setting up these little squares, did a tremendous amount of work building up paths, roads, bridges, infrastructure, in fact, which was, in other respects, kind of the making of the state or the territory in the future, because you now had ways of communicating across large stretches of territory that you didn't before unless you were an Indian. So, but we could ride with this one, I think. The difficulty is trying to recover some of the information that was originally cited, which I understand from Billy is probably was a state creation somewhere. So if we can find that, we can add that to the list, and also to refine some more of these National Archive records, which are mostly all National Archive in origin. So when we can find the citation that the state used for describing the forts of this kind, I guess we'll be all there. I've been hampered for several months by crippling of my particular personal computer. I've had technicians over to try to make it work again, and they say, well, you know, this ought to do it, and then they go away, and it's crippled again as soon as they leave. So I'm trying to get that done. I may have to try to use cell phone as the base of my record keeping, but that's pretty unsatisfactory. So does anybody have any comment on the wording of this most recent text?
I'd have to read through it first. I don't.
Everybody sees one. I think Beth passed them around. That's
I read through it. It reads pretty well.
okay. Anybody have any critique or positive suggestions to add? Or when we went up, Kevin Hooper and I went up to National Archives a couple of times, actually, to lay in more detail if we could find it, and we found a lot, but the more we found kind of undermined the original narrative that, people had thought about with Fort Number 11, namely, that it was so salubrious, and it should have been, I guess, but people got sick a lot, as it turned out. And then there were, let's see, yeah. The other interesting, that turned up as a result of the follow-up research was that General Worth, who was the last commanding officer of the Army of Florida, was very keen on making sure that that fort got used by the settlers who were being sent back out to establish settlements, so that not only would they be fine, but the Indians would be discouraged from coming back in the way they had done and wiping out a few more settlements. They had a way of doing that.
Where's this gonna be posted? Where in Keystone? Will it be?
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to, Billy hopefully will know. Did they finally tell you where it was going to go?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Last I heard, I thought you were reaching out to Deidre to find out.
I did, and she said, "Well, yeah, we're going to have a meeting, and we'll let you all know where it's going to be."
Did you hear anything from her, Beth? I didn't. So I guess,
Now, wait a minute, I think she did send, but I don't think there was a specific location. Sent a picture
I,
back in the email, she sent a picture, but it's across from a park, and so
Yeah.
we need a little more detail on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my turn to not have the mic on.
Do-
I'll go back through my emails, but I don't think it was a very specific enough location. It was kind of across from a park. Does that make sense? Or within a park?
Yes,
I
she
know-
told me that too.
well,
there's
I
a
know,
park which would be the most appropriate place to place it, because, people could pull over, park, admire the sign, think about the contents of it and everything. And so it seemed to her group the best place to go, especially since I haven't heard anything additional from our researcher on the ground, who was hoping to get more access to possible specific site of the fort. So she said, well, this would be better for actually commemorating the site, even if they never did discover, ground zero of the fort. Because these things were built over long ago.
So I did find an email from her. She said, obviously I have a lot of emails that I go through quickly.
Oh.
Suggest having it perpendicular to Lawrence Boulevard, SR 21. That way it is visible from the street, readable from the sidewalk, and readable from inside the park. But I need to have a little bit more, we'll need to get the GPS coordinates, so.
Okay, well, I mean, I can, I originally came into this to just try to improve the text, but it's kind of become my thing, I guess. I will call her again and see whether they could be more specific. And I guess when they can, or they designate a spot, somebody in your shop could come out and place it, right?
well, we need it for the, application,
Yeah,
for the state marker application. And then, yes, once we get that, we would contact, since it's inside the city limits, we would contact the city about getting permission.
oh, by the way, Beth, could you, or somebody, whoever has the application, I don't really have the application myself, so I'd like to,
No, it hasn't been started. Until the wording is done, the application has not been started.
really?
No, I don't submit them until we have the wording and the maps and the GPS coordinates and all of that, and all the supplemental, the bibliography. That needs to be pretty well together.
I thought they had started it.
I'm not aware that, she hasn't provided me a login or an HM code for it. She did send a picture where she's standing holding a paper, that's the location, but I can't tell where that is. It's in front of a parking lot.
Can you
So,
forward that to me?
I sure will.
And, I will try to find out the location.
Okay, will do.
I have a comment on the content.
Okay?
If there's extra wordage, Jerry kind of started out saying about the public and transportation. So right after where it says, the 20-mile square laid out with brindle paths in every direction and staffed with troops with gardening supplies, I liked what you might add something like, this established paths for the community's transport within the 20-mile square. I thought that was a good point for everyone to identify with, that just one sentence in there to
Yes.
point out to
or
people
phrase,
that
yeah.
before they didn't have a way to travel through this 20 miles is huge back then, to be able to now go from here to here to here to here to here. So I liked that too, for the people who aren't quite so techie on the war part, to realize this opened up a 20 square mile area around the fort for people to be able to walk to and from. Worded however.
Yes.
Will you revise the wording on it? And
Yeah, well, yes, I could add it, since we're still stalled over the fact we don't have the application in the works. I didn't realize that, so I was just focusing on the one thing I originally was called upon to.
I can't do the application until I have the wording. I need to have the wording to fill in the application.
Oh, so you can help put the application together?
I've been the one that has submitted the applications,
Good.
yes.
All right, okay.
But
So-
I need the wording, I need
the
description of
wording,
the
right.
significance of it and the maps and the bibliography and all that, yes.
Okay. Yeah, the map, I have to check on, because that shifted a little bit, the map that shows, which is great, shows the map where the fort was and the relation to the ponds and everything. But that was in the Eastern Lands Office over on the Virginia side when I found it years ago. But I should just check and make sure that's what they call themselves now, as bureaucracies do shift their record designations. Just make sure that's it.
Well, we can provide up to 3 maps, and that would be helpful to show the location.
Up to 3 maps.
Up to 3 maps, yes.
Yeah, well, I guess I've got 2 maps. One is not as interesting as so there are 2 contemporary maps. I don't know if we need a third, but if we did,
Well, the third would show where the marker's actually going, correct?
oh, okay, well,
That can be a separate, yeah.
Okay.
Or sometimes I'll pull a property appraiser's map if it's a parcel to show also the ownership and show where it's located. So I can do that if you have no other maps, but
so,
it's important to,
the way things are set up now with we have to have designated email contacts or whatever. So now that Deirdre is no longer on the board, would she be able to contact you, in connection with this, right? That won't be
yes,
a
certainly.
problem?
Yep.
Good. Well, I'll ask her to follow up on what she had, and, yes, very good.
One question, characters, I thought it was 1,235
Per
with
side.
per side, okay.
Side. And I guess I wasn't aware that this was planned to be a 2-sided, but obviously you're under the threshold for the 2 sides.
Right, that's, Deirdre and her people were pretty firm about the fact that they wanted all of it. I guess I could ask her again, maybe I should make it smaller, but, it would be better to tell the whole, more of the story, than, we started with.
Okay. Okay, that's concludes Fort number 11 update, and we will now go for the cemetery update. Kathy.
Okay, before I do that, why isn't the Middleburg marker on here?
Middleburg Colored School,
No, the museum.
Middleburg Museum, because that, text has been finalized and I'm working to submit that. So that's in progress.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you've been talking to Ruth, for example, Ruth Payne?
No, I haven't. She provided us with the bibliography, with the location. And that's something Billy and I have communicated also over that one because the location that she's proposed, I want to suggest a different location because her location is right off the driveway. So you would be standing in the driveway looking at it versus we have an alternative location that I want to get back with her and ask, but
Oh, okay. So you know how to get back to her?
yes,
Good.
I have her contact information.
So she did ask me to mention at sometime in the course of this meeting that in the meantime, they want to apply for county markers for the same thing,
Right.
but they weren't quite sure whether the preliminary thing that was passed out a few months ago is it.
yeah,
or-
I told her that Beth said that she could just fill it out on the draft
Uh-huh,
and submit it
okay. When did you tell her that?
last month.
Last month?
And I can provide the language. I mean, we have enough on this. We have the wording that she wants for the sign, and I can just provide that to Billy. We were talking about that before the meeting this morning, or this
Okay.
afternoon.
So I guess, they're kind of eager to get something up sooner than later, so, is there, I guess, it was her last question, was there anything lacking to going ahead and submitting the county, marker application at this time?
Has she filled out the application?
No, she hasn't, because I haven't provided it back to
Okay.
her. I'm still working on the marker. So
Okay,
there's no reason that, we could go ahead with what we have.
but the state marker, meanwhile, is that lacking something that,
Just the location. That's what
that location about not
right.
being run
And
over
we have
while
to-
you're watching the sign?
we have to get the location narrowed down so we can get the GPS coordinates for the application, so.
Aha, okay. I'll try to relay that to her, and if they can get hold of you all.
Okay. You want me to go ahead with my?
Yep.
I've been a busy little bee as usual. Okay, so, with the holidays and stuff, we still managed to get a lot of things done on the cemeteries. At Sauter Cemetery in Orange Park, we're pretty much done with the restoration with very little left to do. And so now it's just kind of a, periodic maintenance thing. And we had a youth group come out in November and do some maintenance work. We had a woman that has family buried in there that have no marker. So she had a couple of those metal markers like I had made for some of the other folks. She had one made for her and her daughter. So it's Lovey Fountain Keen and her infant daughter Dorothy. And we met her out there and she placed them next to Lovey's parents instead of in the empty area that we think all the Keens are, which is fine. It's a memorial marker, so that was very exciting. We did submit an application to the VA for a veteran marker for James Cornelius West. That was done back in September. We have not gotten an update for it yet. So I am working with somebody that is handling that. And so I'll have to touch base with them now since we're after the first of the year to see if they've had any updates so we can get that military marker placed out there. My exciting news is that we are working at McHenry Hammock. So I had been told that this cemetery had been abandoned, was way overgrown and really, really bad condition. It is registered with the state. It's on private property. And So I went by there one day and was able to catch the homeowner at home and talked with her, and she's very excited about us doing restoration there. So in the meantime, because I was looking for volunteers to help with maintenance at some of our cemeteries, I reached out to the Boy Scout Council, and I had a troop come back and email me and said they'd be happy to help. But then in talking with her, she said that her son was a Life Scout and looking for an Eagle project. So guess what? I told her, I said, I've got an Eagle project for him. And we've met with him several times. The restoration work actually started on January 1. We are just, how would you say it? We're kind of just there to help as far as, we're not doing the work because it's his project, right? We're just there to make sure he follows the right guidelines and things of that sort. So we were out there on the 1st, the 2nd, and the 4th. It is amazing. It is amazing. And we will be out there again this Saturday. Most of the cemetery has been cleared. It was overgrown with all those invasive holly plants everywhere. So we've got most of them, most of the area cleared. The boys have done a great job. So once they get done, we will actually do anything that has to do with the stones. Repair, clean, raise, whatever needs to be done there. And I've also been researching the history of the cemetery and the people that are buried there. And that's always an adventure. There's some very interesting stories about the people that are buried there. Anyway, so that's very exciting, because the people that own the property, the lady that owns it now, she inherited it about a year ago from her mom. And they were an older couple and they didn't maintain it. I mean, it was really bad. So it's starting to look pretty cool. I'm all excited. I need to follow up with Ms. Peoples with about Garner Liege, which is supposed to be an abandoned cemetery off of Springbank Road. And she said she lives in that area and she thought the property was owned by a gun club off of Springbank, but she doesn't remember now. It is on the GIS report, but it's one that we could not, I was driving around and couldn't find it. So we're still doing that. I got an answer from the gentleman at Camp Blanding today, because we were waiting until after the holidays. And I responded back to him with a few suggested dates. We're gonna go do site visits on all the cemeteries at Camp Blanding. There is one on the GIS that has GPS coordinates, but he said he doesn't know anything about it and can't find it. So I don't know where that came up from on Mr. Castine's work, but I gave him the GPS coordinates and he's like, I've been all over there. I can't see that there is a cemetery or was a cemetery there. But anyway, we're looking forward to possibly doing some site visits there. The Florida Public Archaeology Network is having a cemetery restoration and preservation conference in February. I talked about it at the last meeting. Both Steve and I are going to be presenters at that meeting. Obviously talking about cemeteries in Clay County, but our focus is going to be a little bit different. But we're actually going to be presenters, so I'm very excited about us talking about it at the state level. Holly Hill Memorial Park Cemetery in Middleburg, it was established in 1976. So because they have to be 50 years old or older to get on the master file, it will be eligible this year. So that's going to be a pretty easy one to get added. We still have one to go back out to in Keystone, which is Bellamy Road or the Mount Zion Baptist Church Cemetery. When we were out there before, we couldn't find it, but now I've done some more research and I figured out where it is. But Keystone's a little bit of a hike, so we're gonna have to plan something else other than just going out there for one cemetery. And what else? The Clay County Historical Society is having their meeting on January 26th. And I'm going to be a guest speaker there talking about the lives in the history of Clay County based on cemeteries and the people that are buried at them. So, very busy month.
Thank you for your report. Steve, do you have anything from your grand opening or?
Yeah, we had our
What are-
ceremony. We got the fence up. We have the sign up, and we're just down to tidying up a bit. So we're pretty much done. I'm coming to the slow realization, though, that upkeep is going to be kind of up to me to come up with a plan. You had mentioned, I think, Beth, that the county would write a grant if we have a plan, a specific plan for upkeep. Is that?
Is this for a county-owned one? No.
No,
not a
but-
county-owned
It's
one.
it's a abandoned one.
Yeah, but
That's a state grant through.
right, for abandoned African-American cemeteries. The deadline is April.
Yes,
It needs to be either submitted by a nonprofit group or a government agency.
correct. And I can get with our team on that and have them reach out to you for input on it.
Great. I had reached out to you. I'm trying to figure out who's taking care of Magnolia Springs Cemetery,
And I replied to you this afternoon. We contract out for that.
because it might make sense to have the same contractors do the sister cemetery that's just a half a mile away.
Is that also a county-maintained one?
This is the one that he has just cleaned up. It's
Okay.
the abandoned one. It's
It's
not
not owned by anybody.
owned by
Okay.
anybody.
So now I have to figure out a plan to maintain it, or the forest is just gonna recapture it. So if we could write that grant and get some funds, and if we have a lawn keeping or group that's already doing Magnolia Springs, it might make sense to have them give us a bid at how much it might cost, and then I'll get some other bids.
I'll check with our
Have you-
grants team on that.
Could I be recognized? Could I be recognized?
Yes,
I am relatively new, and I understand some of the functions of this committee. However, the identifying of cemeteries or forts and the historical and documentation and getting a plaque up is very different than some of the other historical societies choosing to do maintenance and clearing and restoration. And I know everyone's enthused and you're dedicated, but Kathy, you started this in another historical society, not in this board. I mean, you've been doing it for a year, right, at least, the finding, yes, the documenting, yes. From what I've read, this board is not in charge of maintenance, restoration, or anything else. If we're doing that, we're either doing that through another committee or our own dedication and belief. It would be as if Fort 11, we decided to start laying out these brindle paths in a 20-mile square, documenting them, making sure they were clear and paved. No, that's not what we're doing. Now, if you get Clay County Historical Society, or in this case, Keystone Heights Historical Society, who wants to do the next step, and I may be wrong, but it's a whole different aspect to want to be collecting Boy Scouts for it. I mean, it's nice to hear about it, what our information has opened up to people, but I don't think we should be feeling responsible for anything to actually get our hands dirty, go out and do it. And if you do it on your own, that's great. If I go out to Fort 11 and try to figure out, based on what's in the documentation, where it is, and try to walk some of these paths and say, hey, you know, your house is built at the corner.
Okay, I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding. Steve and Kathy does the cemetery restoration
Yes.
their own
Yes,
time
I think
away
I was
from-
stating that
Okay.
yes, they're doing it, it's nice to hear it. However, I think to focus on it a lot in our meeting, televised, documented, whatever, makes it sound like that's actually part of our duties, not just that somebody's doing it.
So part of our duties is preserving the history of Clay County.
Yes,
That
of course.
includes, and I don't
But
have
by
my copy.
preserving, it doesn't mean we go in and cut down trees and pull up the gravestones. We're preserving the history, not the actual sites.
So let me correct something that I said at the last meeting that was incorrect. Cemeteries are exempt from our tree protection standards, so there can be clearing of trees as needed. Obviously, we wouldn't recommend that you overly clear trees, but I want to make sure that was corrected. Cemeteries are exempt from our tree protection standards.
That's
So-
good to hear.
I just want to clarify a couple points. You mentioned the Clay County Historical Society. It has nothing to do with Pleasant Point, absolutely zero. This was my project. And I'm not asking the Preservation Board to help with anything else except with the grant writing be a vehicle for us to submit that grant to the state.
And I
That's it.
understand that because the grant writing is writing up the equivalent of the fort that we just got or the whatever. You are telling everybody this history, which is wonderful. And then because you choose to do that on your own or another society chooses to do it, that's good. But I'm new and it seems like we're focusing a lot on the actual doing the work, which I don't want that responsibility myself if we, to try to bring back Fort 11. And I think you all see that I mean, the cemeteries are close, you can see it. But if this is a project, then that's a project, and this is a project. And I don't think our intention of identifying things means we have to restore them back so people can rebuild the fort. That's a whole huge task. So that's really not it. It's nice to know where it is. But with the cemeteries, it's nice to say, here's this cemetery, here's this cemetery, here's this cemetery. But to make me feel that we then, when you discover a new one, are expecting to generate work crews or maintenance crews, I just, maybe I'm wrong, but I had to say it.
So I don't think that's been the impression that's been given by Kathy or Steve, that they're soliciting for workers from this committee. They're presenting their activities as information to you and the community as far as what their work has been comprised of.
Right.
And also to inspire others to record cemeteries that are out there, because that's a big issue, that there are many that are unrecorded and could easily be destroyed if they're not recorded. And so this is just part of their work. I don't think they're, demanding anyone join in their
No,
work
I didn't feel that. I just felt that there's a huge focus of time. If you read through the minutes, if you watch the agenda, about what really isn't our business. In other words, if I start cleaning
I
up trash
disagree.
along a certain area that's historic, I may let you all know about it, but I don't want anyone else to feel like they have to join. So that was all.
Can I-
Sorry.
May I comment? My understanding is that Kathy has looked at the board in previous years and understood that there was some sort of report regarding the cemeteries here in the county. So I think she came on to make sure that that was represented historically, as it has been previously, from my understanding.
Just another point, when I brought this up, that we need to do upkeep, I started off by saying that it's going to be my responsibility. I'm coming to the realization that's going to be on my shoulders. So in no way was I suggesting the Preservation Board be part of any of the upkeep for the cemetery.
I guess my question to you is, what do you feel that the goals and are of this committee?
Well, it's to research, identify, come up with all the stuff that we hear for something like a fort or whatever markers are out there, what's there. But if someone comes to us, I just found an old building on my property, I think it looks like it was made in 1803 and nobody ever knew about it. Can you check it out for me? I believe we are tasked then to help them look at historical records, come up with it, and do that. We're not tasked with feeling responsible whether the person is then going to fix it up or not, or help them out. I mean, we might decide to do that on our own. But as far as reading our own personal choices, which was fine, it was nice that you're doing that. But I guess I was just trying to keep it more on a analytical, historical, that, and not an ownership thereof.
So my understanding, when I came on the board earlier this year, my goal, when I asked to be involved in this, was that there used to be a cemetery committee on the preservation board when it was the historical commission. And the goals on that said it was to identify, preserve, recognize, and promote the historical, architectural, and archaeological resources significant to Clay County's past. So yes, recording it, identifying it, recording it, but preservation is also included in that. Because I've taken on and worked on doing restoration, that's my personal choice.
Yes.
But it also increases awareness to let us know that, hey, we are doing some preservation work, or there is preservation work being done to save these historical and architectural and archaeological sites.
I would say as a board, we're always welcome for suggestions on projects. So if there's some projects that you could recommend that the board work on. Historic markers at this point, we're budget constrained a little bit, but also the state is backlogged. I think they're getting caught up, but they're probably still around June of last year, and we've got a couple of markers that are already in line ahead of the one that Jerry's working on. So certainly, if you have any suggestions on what the board could be working on, we'd be happy to hear.
Yes, of
As a
course.
new
That-
member.
That definitely was a part of the board. That was very plain for that. It was the extensive work involved that made it, although you were both careful to say you were doing it on your own, it added a focus to the group that I thought might be distracting to other people.
You mentioned briefly when I asked about this sign, have you heard anything, updates for the Middleburg School? I haven't heard anything.
So we had an interesting, not happy thing that was discovered. The state sent me an email this week that said that unfortunately, due to their backlog, they were not able to catch the fact that the Middleburg Colored School application that we submitted, which I'm still in the process of submitting because I've got the supplemental stuff to submit, is a duplicate, and that there was another application that was submitted probably around June of last year, and that's how I know that they're catching up to June. It was approved in December. So another group has submitted marker text and gotten it approved by, now Maureen is reaching out to them, and that's where we are on that. I don't have any other comments on it other than another group has submitted before us.
Have
So,
you heard anything about the actual preservation of the building?
we are submitting grants for funding to try and get funding to do that.
Okay,
But no, I don't know anything further on that.
okay.
Okay, any other old business? If not, we'll move on to new business and attendance policy discussion. I'll let Beth open that up.
Okay, so right in this, in the agenda, and also you've seen this in our packet of information regarding your duties, powers and duties, is language about attendance. And if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, technically you can be considered someone to be removed from the committee if the committee sees fit. With a 10-member committee, that means we need to have 6 members to have a quorum. When we have members that are not regularly attending, that makes it difficult to get a quorum. We had that issue back in October where we didn't have a quorum. So we certainly understand, we value that you are volunteers and you're giving your time, but you have lives outside of here and, you know, work and family, and sometimes you can't make it to a meeting. So I'm putting this forth to you. I did an analysis of the last year's meetings. Now, some of you, obviously Kathy, Rachel, who's not here, and I will be reaching out to her because she's now missed 2 meetings, so I want to make sure she's getting the emails and what's going on there. But Kathy, Steve, and Barbara, you're all new to the board, so, you know, you weren't on the board this long. But Randy and Terry have both missed a lot of meetings, and I did reach out to Terry, and he said that he had had problems with his work conflicting with coming to the meeting. So I did talk with him about, you know, our need to have a quorum and how we need to have members attending. And I believed he was going to resign. He was, you know, I told him the process is to send an email to me and, you know, we can resign, he can resign that way. Or, you know, you as a board can decide to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that, you know, members be removed, and they could then be filled by another position. But my role here is just to make sure that you have a quorum and that you can continue to do your work. And so that's why I'm bringing this up to you. So if you want to have a
Have you
discussion.
reached out to Randy?
I did reach out to Randy. I left a voicemail and I heard nothing back from him. So,
haven't
you
talked
know,
to him in a long
if,
time.
if you resign from the board or if you're, you know, removed from it now, I'm sure if circumstances change, you can always reapply and the board would consider, you know, they recognize you're all volunteers and life, you know, has circumstances. So
So did Randy agree to resign or what?
She hasn't
Randy
talked
did
to
not
him.
return my call.
I'll
I
try
did
to
not-
reach him and then I'll communicate with you,
Good,
because he
yeah.
usually talks to me, all right?
Well, I mean, as you see, he has missed substantially.
Yeah,
Right.
So
and he's had all kinds of health, personal
Oh,
issues.
I understand.
So-
Yeah.
A lot.
So that's where we are. I mean, you've got 2 members that have missed, and again, if you reduce your number down to 8, you then only need 5 instead of 6, so it would help with your quorum, but
Which way is most expedient? It would be for them to just resign themselves.
either way, resign, but like I said, I tried to reach out to Randy and I've heard nothing from him. So, you know, they
Just-
can resign or you can, you know, take a vote and we can send that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. There's no ill will on this. This is just, you know, to be able to have your meetings, we need to make sure we get a quorum. So, and you all don't want to come to a meeting and then not be able to have it be productive.
True, yeah. However, it does seem it would be a lot better on the record if the person resigned because circumstances prevent attendance other than he's just blowing it off, which of course Randy doesn't do or hasn't done, but these medical issues certainly have gotten in the way of his doing what he thought he would. And so it would look better on the record, in my opinion, to have the resignation as a matter. Oh, by the way, so if this person does decide to resign, what are the essential elements of the resignation letter? I suppose you want a letter.
It's a very simple email. They could just say, you know, I can no longer serve on the Historic Preservation Board. That's all.
Okay. Now, since Randy is not probably plugged into the new email system, internal one.
No, he was not here, so he's never been given the email. So I've been communicating through his old email as well as calling him, and I've
Okay.
gotten no response.
So he could send that email to you, right?
Yes.
Just even though.
Yes, so if one of you can communicate with him and
Yeah.
ask him to, you know,
Okay.
You could probably even send a letter.
Well,
I would think snail mail would work also.
Either way, yeah. Or, those are the two methods, so
Yeah.
I'm just raising that for you, and if you'll reach out to him and see if he
Yeah.
comes to the museum, or if you see him, Melissa, or, so. So, that's all I have on that topic.
Okay, so do we want to take any action at this time? If so, I'll entertain a motion. If not, then we'll move on to the, closing.
Well, Steve's gonna try and get a hold of Randy.
right.
Or
Yeah, I
at least
think-
give him.
Well, or,
Yeah, I think we'll give it
one of them.
this time and then maybe look at taking a motion next time.
Okay. Okay,
So if one of those two people formally resigns, that would free up the ratio that we're worried about, right? Or make it,
Would that take us down to 5?
That would take us to 9, which would get us down.
okay. All right, seeing as there's nobody in the audience, we will open and close public comment, go to staff comment.
The only comment I have is the Historic Roundtable is meeting on Monday, January 12th. I believe you go to that, Kathy.
Yes.
So that's all I have.
What time?
9:30 to 12:30 at St. Mary's Episcopal Church.
I'll talk to her in private after.
And 400 St. John's Avenue, Green Cove Springs.
Do you know what the roundtable is?
I do not, but unfortunately I work during that time. It just
Oh, okay.
kills me. Yeah.
So twice a year, the historical societies in Clay County get together and they, have one meeting to kind of talk about what each historical society has been doing, what some of their projects are. It's just a way for them all to come together and come up with ideas, share ideas, thoughts, and whatever. And usually do it, January and July?
Twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year. So it's good.
Yes, I wish I could be, because it's just it's like 9 o'clock in AM, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes.
It's during the day.
Yes.
Makes it hard for those
Yes.
that work, yes.
All right, we are done with staff comments and we will go with board comments and we'll start down here and work our way to the end.
Just had one comment about the Middleburg marker now. When we find out what the result of that is, what does that mean for budgetary means?
So the money for markers is not spent until the marker is produced. So that money is now, if we are not doing that two-sided marker, that will help with the two-sided marker for Fort 11.
Okay.
So,
So the Middleburg one, they want to do a state marker, but they would like to get a county marker in there since that will take less time. And the museum is actually owned by the county.
Okay.
It's not like, so they just need to have their stuff because they've got pretty much the verbiage and stuff, everything done.
yes.
But they want to get a marker up as quickly as possible.
So you're saying maybe we do with the smaller level and maybe let the other stuff sort itself out?
I'm sorry.
Are you saying that we go with the level with Billy and do that sign to start or something?
Yes.
And then let
They
the
wanna
other,
do the
yeah,
county
state level
marker
sort itself out?
Because they know the state marker is going to take them quite a bit longer and
Right.
there's not a budget and the state's way behind. And so at least they'll have the county marker.
And that doesn't conflict with the state level stuff that's going on?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
That doesn't prevent you from getting a state marker. So you can do both.
I have nothing.
I said my piece.
I said my piece.
you have said your piece. So, what was it? I think, yeah, so if we can arrive at some sort of or at least an informal protocol as to how to go about initiating some of these other projects. For example, one thing that's always been kind of hovering in the air is to promote and hopefully get the county to adopt some sort of guidelines or rules for preservation of buildings, that are historic and so forth, or designating areas that are considered to be historic areas besides the ones that are already mentioned. It's a little bit fuzzy, at least in my mind, how you obtain people to, for example, in 1989, I believe it was, the county hired expert architectural historians and maybe archaeology people, for all I know. And they came up with a survey of the county's known historic thing, especially right here in Green Cove Springs. They did a very, good job for the period of time that they were in. But I don't know how we'd get a fresh look at some of these potential sites in terms of financing or recognition of, this is a project, the county is behind it. I don't know how that will be done, but it would be good if we could kind of get some guidance on that. Another thing that does occur to me is that the county's museum for years has been suffering from neglect in terms of the maintenance, particularly the roof system. The roof system has always been such that water penetrates. It happened again, apparently, in the last few days. And each time it does damage, or it does damage. Sometimes it's actually destroyed, particularly paper holdings inside the museum.
We've
And
got the same issue at the archives, though. At the Clay County Archives building,
yes,
part of the old jail, they have the same issue. They have a leaky roof, and they've had to move things over there. So the county is aware of it. I mean, whoever does their maintenance, but yeah.
well, yeah, I'm suggesting that we put our heads together as a board and emphasize the necessity of really finally taking a stand and doing lasting repairs on those things so that it doesn't happen every other year that we get another disaster, small or great. It's really kind of a disgrace that it's the way it is now. And so I think if we can somehow publicly take a stand, maybe march down to another commissioner meeting and record our concern about it, because sometimes it works or has worked in the past. So
I would also ask that one of you send an email, and maybe if you can't, I don't know, Melissa, if you can send me the details of where there's issues with the museum. I can forward that to our facilities department, and, they can check it out. But if they don't know, they can't check it out, so
I
if
have
you all.
pictures that I took on
Okay.
Sunday.
Please send it to me.
Yeah, I think they are aware, because I was even over at the museum, and there were guys that came in and were looking at stuff, and this
Okay.
has been going on for a while.
I understand, yeah.
yeah, that they are aware is a first step, but obviously it's not enough. There has to be some sort of
Action.
push, right, yeah. And that's where hopefully we could come in.
Well, if I could, they keep doing temporary fixes.
Yeah,
But the water collects up there, they have to do some kind of false pitch or something for the water to run off, or it's gonna continue to be a problem. I think so far, they've come up with the funding to.
yeah, I mean,
To
the
totally
roof
redo the
system, if
roof.
you go up, to the highest point of the old courthouse, you can see what a mess, it's just a Rube Goldberg, assortment of, and every one that has a sharp angle at the bottom, is inviting Because the water is going to find its way if it doesn't have a way of getting off that roof. And that's what's been happening again and again. And they do tar or whatever. And so yes, those of us who are plugged into the current email system, I hope I can certainly talk to those people too, but to get it, yeah, we need to record this, I think, and keep recording it, showing up at the meetings if necessary of the commissioners. Because, they're not unsympathetic to it, it's just that they have so many other things claiming their ascension. But for us, this is a big deal. And especially it's embarrassing to try to encourage people to give their historic artifacts to the museum, for example, and then say, well, of course, we can't guarantee they won't be destroyed in a few years, but it doesn't look good. All right.
All right, with nothing else, meeting is adjourned.